Hello everyone. This is the part 3 of the presentation made on the topic quality of service. So we are already looking at the implementation details of QoS in a typical network. So let's continue. So here I am giving you a brief idea about token bucket filter, which you may already familiar, like it's a traffic shaping technique, right? In congestion also you may be familiar with this. Now how it is related to QoS is like when we are trying to implement QoS, on the way we have to control the traffic also. That means we should not lead the network into some congested state. So what we can do is, whenever the sender is trying to send some information, at the sender side itself we can regulate the traffic. So that is being achieved by this token bucket as well as the leaky bucket algorithm. So compared to this leaky bucket, token bucket is slightly performing better because it can support bursty traffic also at the same time, like a normal traffic. Okay, so let's see how it is working. So it describes the bandwidth characteristics of source, how the source can send the data, how much bandwidth that we are restricting by means of this technique. So it is can be defined by parameters like a token rate, that is the rate at which the tokens are generated in the machine, which is shaping the traffic using this algorithm, and a bucket depth B. That means if you keep on generating the token, suppose you don't have to send any information, then you will simply generate the token. Now you have to restrict what is the maximum number of token that you can generate, what is the upper bound, and that is by means of the bucket depth, like say B bytes. That means for every byte we need a token to deliver, right? So B byte means maximum B number of tokens can be generated for sending a burst traffic of B bytes. So how it is working, that we already know. That means to be able to send a single byte, we need a single token. So for every byte I need a token. If the token is available, then only I can send the byte. Otherwise I am not allowed to send the byte. Now to send a packet of length say n bytes, I need n tokens, obvious. So initially no tokens, because when we just start our algorithm, everything is in the initial state, there is no token, and over time the tokens are getting accumulated, say at a rate of r per second. So because this is the parameter that define our specific token bucket algorithm. So at the rate of r tokens per second, in every second r tokens are getting generated. Now even though the tokens are generated, it can accumulate no more than B tokens because it is restricted by the bucket depth, that is B. So if that is the case, it is allowing bursty data of maximum burst, say B bytes, because for a period of time if I don't have any data to send, I can simply accumulate the tokens, but maximum B bytes or maximum B tokens, every token for one token for 1 byte. So B token is nothing but for B bytes. So at a particular point, for a last few seconds, I don't have any data to send. So tokens are simply generated. Now suddenly I have a bursty data of say B bytes. I can immediately take all the tokens together and I can send the bursty data, but not more than B bytes. And over a sufficiently long interval, it can't send more than r bytes per second. Suppose every tokens are getting consumed, then r tokens are getting generated per second, right? Because token rate is r. So on a long time you can guarantee say r bytes per second if there is no bursty data. So this logic can be used to help our admission control algorithm. That is why we discuss this topic in the context of QoS. So at the sender side itself we are controlling the traffic, right? So that is something what is done by admission control algorithm also, to figure out whether it can accommodate a new request for a given service. So let's see an example. So here I given a typical example, say flow A. So I am describing the particular flow like this. It is generating data at a steady rate of say 1 megabits per second. That means every second the flow is generating say 1 megabyte. Now on the same machine which is generating the flow, we are using the token bucket algorithm, and it is described by a token filter with a rate of 1 megabits per second and a bucket depth of say 1 byte. What does it mean? In every second 1 mega. So it is like 1 mega per second. What I mean is 1 mega tokens per second. Okay, in every second we are generating 1 mega tokens. But for any time I am not able to store tokens actually, because the bucket length is just 1 byte only. For 1 byte I need 1 token, right? So I can store maximum 1 token only. That means even though the tokens are getting generated, I am not able to accumulate the tokens. Only 1 token I can store, and that has to be consumed before generating the next one. That is how it is working. So now altogether, how this particular token bucket algorithm is promising a flow of 1 megabits per bytes per second. That is clear, right? Now it receives the tokens at a rate of 1 mega tokens per second, but that it cannot store more than 1 token. So it sends them immediately. So what is the logic? In every second 1 mega tokens are getting generated, and I am not able to accumulate any token because the bucket depth is just it can store only 1 token, that is 1 byte, right? So 1 mega tokens are getting generated per second, and every byte will be taking 1 token, so that 1 megabytes can travel per second. So that is our requirement. 1 mega tokens are generated per second, and without any accumulation or storing, immediately the tokens are taken by every byte and it is moving. So 1 mega tokens, correspondingly I can support a maximum of 1 mega bytes per second. So it's clear, but here there is no bursty traffic, nothing, right? Simply tokens are generating and it is taken by the flow and it is moving. So it is actually just like our leaky bucket algorithm, if you know, or you please refer how leaky bucket is working. So it is just an analogy of leaky bucket only. Even though it is token bucket, it is working like a leaky bucket. Now to see the power of token bucket, we have another example, that is flow B. So here it is working like, it is sending data at an average that averages out to say 1 megabyte per second, right? On the average I am sending 1 megabyte over a long time, but it is doing so by sending 0.5 megabytes per second for the first 2 seconds and then 2 megabyte per second for the remaining 1 second. That means if you are taking a timeline of 3 seconds, for the first 2 seconds 0.5 megabytes per second. Okay. Now for the third second, that means following this 2 seconds, in the next second I am sending 2 megabytes per second. So it is not a fixed flow, it is somewhat varying. So this is looking like a bursty traffic, like, because 2 compared to this. So for the first 2 seconds I am going a steady rate of 0.5 megabits per second. Immediately I am jumping to say 2 megabytes per second. Now this is where you can apply token bucket, because if you are using a leaky bucket algorithm, it's not possible for you to achieve this. Now let's see how we can do it. So it can be described by a token bucket with the parameters. Say R is equal to 1 mega tokens per second and B is equal to say 1 megabyte. Now see, this is one of the token bucket which can promise this flow. But remember, you can promise the same flow with a different token bucket also. So now with using this particular token bucket, say with the rate 1 mega tokens per second and bucket depth say 1 megabyte. See, in the previous case it is 1 byte only. Now 1 megabyte means I am provided with a feature of accumulating tokens. I can accumulate more tokens so that it can store up tokens while it sends at less than 1 megabits per second. Megabyte, remember capital B means byte, okay? For bits I will be using small b only. 1 megabytes is to be used when it sends 2 megabits per second. That we will see how it is working. So it is like this. Initially, for the first 2 seconds of time, I need a data flow rate of 0.5 megabytes per second only. Now see how much tokens are generated in every second. 1 mega tokens are generated. But in every second I am sending only 0.5 megabytes of information. So even though 1 mega tokens are generated, out of them 0.5 mega tokens are consumed by this 0.5 megabytes per second data flow. That means even though it is generating 1 mega tokens, half of the tokens are consumed by the flow, because flow is sending data only at the rate of 0.5 megabytes per second only, right? That means in every second the remaining half, that is 0.5 mega tokens are accumulated, and this is happening for the first 2 seconds. That means in the first second 0.5 mega tokens are accumulated. Now in the second of time also another 0.5 megabyte mega tokens are accumulated. So totally for the first 2 seconds of time, as I am sending data with a less speed compared to the token generation speed, I am able to accumulate 0.5 plus 0.5, that is 1 mega tokens. That means 1 mega tokens, using that I can send up to 1 megabytes. Now see, in the third second, the flow is generating data at the rate of 2 megabits per second, right? So it is burst. You see, tokens are generating only in the rate of 1 mega tokens per second. I am getting only 1 mega tokens per second, but I want to send 2 megabytes of information per second. So how it is possible? Because of our token bucket algorithm. Because during the first 2 seconds, I accumulated already some 1 megabyte of 1 mega tokens, right? So with that, out of this 2 megabytes per second, the first 1 megabyte can be sent with the accumulated token. Now to send the remaining 1 megabyte, say per second, the 1 mega tokens are getting generated also. That is because tokens are generated in a constant speed, and some of them are accumulated. With that I am achieving, say, my bursty data. So this is how it is working. That is, for the first 2 seconds of time, it receives tokens at a rate of 1 mega tokens per second, but sends only 0.5 mega tokens only, because data is generating at this speed only. So it can save up to 2 into 0.5, that is 1 mega tokens, which it can spend in the third second, along with the new tokens that continue to occur in that second, to send data up to 2 mega. Out of half is fulfilled by the accumulated token as a bursty data, and the remaining 1 megabytes per second I am sending with the 1 mega tokens, which are generated in the third second. So at the end of the third second, having spent the excess tokens, now all the accumulated tokens are spent. So it starts to save them up again in the again by sending a lower rate. That means this cycle will repeat for the first 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 0.5 megabytes per second, 1 second, 2 megabits per second. Again in the fourth and fifth second, it will come back to this. So it will go like a cycle. Now see, you can pictorially view this like this. Here in the x-axis I have the time in seconds, and y-axis I am taking the bandwidth in mega bytes per second, right? So we already seen about flow A and flow B, and see, flow A is getting a fixed rate. It is just working like a leaky bucket algorithm only, even though it is token bucket. Fixed rate of say 1 megabyte per second. But when it comes to flow B, for the first 2 seconds it is getting 0.5 megabytes per second rate or speed. Now in the third second it is suddenly getting a high speed of 2 megabytes per second, and that is achieved with respect to our token bucket algorithm. But if you are looking at flow B, on the average it is still getting the 1 megabyte per second speed only, because tokens are generating at that speed. Because of the we can accumulate the token. Because of that feature, I am getting this different rate. Okay, hope it is clear. Now about the admission control algorithm. So token bucket is going to help you to some extent regulate the traffic which you are sending. Now once you start sending, what is happening, not start sending, before sending itself, we have to do some thorough checking whether we can admit the flow or not. So admission control algorithm, when some new flow wants to receive a particular level of service, it can be a guaranteed service or a control load service or a best effort, whatever it is. The admission control algorithm look at the traffic specification and the what is requested by the flow, that is R spec of the flow, and tries to decide if the desired service can be provided to the amount of traffic or not. So it's a kind of decision making that is happening in this space, given the currently available resources, without causing any previously admitted flow to receive worse service, because already some of the flows are admitted. So when you are admitting a new flow, you have to ensure that it is not going to disturb any of the already admitted flow. So accordingly the flow request has to be satisfied. So if it can provide the service, the flow is set to admit. If not, it is denied. So the hard part is figuring out when to say yes and when to say no. Admission control is very dependent on the type of requested service and on the queuing discipline employed on the router. So what is requested and what kind of queuing discipline employed at the routers, accordingly the decision making is going to happen. So for a guaranteed service, if you are looking at guaranteed service that is given for the intolerant and non-adaptive application, we need some service guarantee, right? So here you need to have your admission control algorithm good enough to make that a definitive yes or no decision. Some heuristic is not preferred here, because we need a yes or no kind of definitive algorithm for guaranteed service. But when it comes to controlled or service, it is for tolerant and adaptive application. So the decision may be based on some heuristic, that is fine. No need of definitive yes or no by some heuristic. For example, such as last time I allowed a flow with the say T-spec as the specification into this class. The delays for the class exceeds the acceptable bond, so it is better to say no right now. So in the previous case, from my past experience, I reached a conclusion. In the previous case, for this T-spec flow with this particular specification, when I admitted that flow, I got a negative effect. That means it exceeds acceptable bound. So now it is better to say no. Like that, some heuristic you can apply based on your past experience. So that is for controlled service. When it comes to guaranteed service, your decision making process should be definitive, say yes or no. So now another terminology is policing. So you should not be confused the terms like admission control and policing, because if you are looking at admission control, that is a per flow decision. You are going to decide whether a given flow can be admitted or not. Okay, but when it comes to policing, you already decided to admit a given flow. Now you have to ensure that whether the admitted flow is keeping its promise, like what we given to the flow, whether it is able to maintain that or not. So the later, that is policing, is a function applied to on a per packet basis. That means within a flow we have a number of packets, right? So for a flow as a whole we have admission control. Now within a flow, for each and every packet we have a policy to make sure that the flow conforms to the T-spec or not. So for a flow with a given T-spec we already admitted. Now we are going to check whether the flow is in accordance with the specification or not. And that was used to make the reservation. That per packet checking kind of thing is called a policy. So if a flow does not conform to the specification it promised, for example, because it is sending twice as many bytes per second as it said it would. For example, it already said that I want 1 megabytes per second, but immediately it is trying to send 2 megabytes per second. That means it is violating its T-spec, right? Then it is likely to interfere with the service that is already provided to other flows, and some corrective action must be taken. So there are several options, and the obvious one is just to drop the offending packet. If someone is not following what is promised, simply drop them. And another approach is option would be to check if the packets really are interfering with the service of other flows or not. So before immediately dropping the packet, you can just ensure that whether there is any problem that the flow will cause or not. If there is no problem, then if you want, you can simply ignore the problem and you can support the flow. Like if they are not going to interfere, but some kind of checking is needed in this case. The packets, if there is, after doing our checking, we understood that there is no interfering going to happen, then the packet could be sent on after being marked with a tag that says in effect this is a non-conforming packet. Just like you are going to send the data as there is no problem, but still you are tagging that particular packet as of now there is no problem, but it is a non-conforming packet. It simply violated what is promised. So drop it first if you need to drop any packets. That on the way, if there is any problem, you can you are always welcome to drop this packet, because it already violates the promises. It is a non-conforming packet, right? So that's all. Now in subsequent presentation we will see more details about QoS. Thank you.